Hey, what is up, YouTube? Kolst here. So we have another 9 cards to review here for the new expansion, Sunken City, Voyage to Sunken City. Talking about the new expansion, I have a bundle to give away on Twitter. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already. I'll also have 2 more bundles, one on each of Twitch and YouTube to give away. So make sure to watch out for those as well. But with that, let's just get right into these cards. And let's start with one of the big exciting ones. It's so big, you might even call it colossal. But this is Glug the Gulper. This is the Shaman legendary colossal minion. 7 mana 3/5. After a friendly minion dies, gain its original stats. So the +3 from this colossal are 3 copies of Glug's Tail, which are each 2/2 taunts and beasts as well. So basically you're getting a 7 mana 3/5 and 3 2/2s. And if you add that up, that's just a lot of stats. Compared to a lot of the colossals, this one does have one critical weakness, which is that if it's not so vulnerable to like single target removal, that's not so terrible. If you were to like fireball this, for example, you're still getting all those extra stats, but what would make this really weak would be if it just got flame struck right off the board. But assuming your opponent doesn't have the ability to do something like that, or they don't have a silence for this, it's just an absolutely absurd number of stats. And it's worth noting, like, this does not just count, like, it's not just the tails. It doesn't just grow from the tails, it grows from anything. So even if you're against a mage and you expect a flame strike, you can play this while you're able to trade something else off to put it out of flame strike range, and then you can just avoid that problem. So overall, just a pretty darn polarizing card in that way, and just it's an absurd amount of stats. And if you have it, you know, just like every other colossal that they've been printing, it's an incredibly powerful card for Arena. With that, let's move on to the next card. Let's talk about the Mage one here. So Mage has this new card, Spitelash Siren, a 4 mana 2/5 epic Naga. After you play a Naga, refresh 2 mana crystals, then switch to spell. So the idea would be, I mean, you could somehow cycle between Nagas and spells and just have, like, you know, infinite mana, theoretically, ideally. Unfortunately, as far as Arena is concerned, I can't imagine a world that you're actually able to pull this off in a meaningful way. You're not going to have that many Nagas in the first place, and you have to start with Naga. And, I mean, you pull that off, you get like a 2/5, and it's just this is going to be just way too hard to pull off, frankly. So it's like a 4 mana 2/5 with maybe some mild upside, but you know, it's just not really going to be worth it. So you're not going to be picking this too much, I do not believe. Very interested to see what they can do potentially in Constructed with this card though, but even there, it might be a little hard to pull off. But with that, let's move on to the next card. It is Chum Bucket. This is a 2 mana epic spell in Warlock. Give all Murlocs in your hand +1/+1. Repeat for each Murloc you control. So they're really trying to force this Murloc synergy, it does seem like. However, in Arena, you're probably just not going to have that many Murlocs, and this is just not going to do that much. There's like, you know, there are cards in like Paladin had an old card that did it, and Druid has a new card that just gives your hand +1/+1 regardless of what minion type it is. This is 2 mana to do that, and I mean, you have to have like Murlocs already on the board, and then you have to have a whole bunch of Murlocs already in your hand as well, remaining in your hand to get like significant buff out of this. I don't see it. It just seems really weak for what it's going to realistically do in Arena, so I don't think it's going to be very good at all. Let's move on to another Warlock card, which is Abyssal Wave, 6 mana shadow spell, also epic. Deal 4 damage to all minions, so both sides of the board. Give your opponent an Abyssal Curse. So this is a very weird one because the text on this is very strange. It shows 2 mana at the start of your turn, take 0 damage. Each curse is worse than the last 2 turns remaining. So there was an old card called Cursed, which, you know, you would give your opponent a 2 mana spell that they would take 2 damage at the start of their turn, and they could play it to get rid of it. And I believe this works the same way. But even though, you know, I've looked at like other websites, like I have like Hearthstone top decks pulled up, and it does say that they start at 1 damage here, so I believe that it'll start at 1. It'd be really weird if it started at 0, because then it would just be, you know, it would just take up space in your hand, right? I do believe it starts at 1. But anyway, the whole point of this is that, like, just like any curse card in Arena, that it's not going to have a whole bunch of value. There's probably going to be other cards that put more curses potentially into your opponent's hand, and we'll have to see if any of those are constructed or Arena viable. And then maybe this will be a little bit better, but as is, this is 6 mana, deal 4 damage AoE, which is it's just not that good. If you're playing like a really slow deck and you're missing AoE, you might still take it. Like, it's not terrible, right? But it's just you know, even 6 mana deal 5 AoE two-sided is not really considered that great anymore in Arena, so a little bit weak for what it does as far as what we care about in Arena. Now let's move on to the last class, which we have class cards for here, which is Demon Hunter. Let's talk about the powerful one first. This is Glaive Shark. This is a 4 mana 4/3 beast with Battle Cry. If your hero attacked this turn, deal 2 damage to all enemies. So in other words, if you have a weapon equipped, you can swing it and turn this thing into literally consecration. But otherwise, I mean, you're Demon Hunter, so you can always hero power and play this on turn 5 and get, you know, a consecration, although you can't do it on turn 4, you have to wait till turn 5. But overall, I mean, this is just incredibly, incredibly powerful for Arena. Dark Iron Skulker is a pretty good card in the game right now in Rogue, and it, you know, is much, much weaker than this, basically. This is just like a much better Dark Iron Skulker, so... yeah, incredibly powerful card, and it is a common in Demon Hunter, so you're going to be seeing quite a lot of it. Let's move on to the other Demon Hunter card here, which is not quite so powerful in Arena. This is Abyssal Depths. This is a 4 mana shadow spell. Draw your 2 lowest cost minions. So obviously in Constructed, there's going to be things you're going to be able to do. You're going to be able to, you know, pick which cards you're pulling out of this and tutor specific things for a particular strategy. So this could be probably very good in Constructed. But as far as Arena is concerned, your lowest cost minions are usually not your best ones. There could be some exceptions if you have like an Ibis in your deck or something, you know, but generally speaking, you're going to be just paying way too much mana. You would want to like have a discounted draw if you're actually forced to only draw your lowest cost minions, generally speaking. So it's not like this is like a never pick card, but just generally not going to be exactly what you're looking for. You generally want card draw for value, and this just doesn't provide you that much value, right? So it's just usually not going to be very good. Demon Hunter as well just has better card draw options. They have like 2 mana draw too, you know, just you're not going to want this. And with that, that's it for class cards. Let's move on to the neutral cards. We have a very powerful one here, which is School Teacher, 4 mana Epic Naga, 4 mana 5/4, Battle Cry, add a 1/1 Naga link to your hand. Discover a spell that costs 3 or less to teach it. So this works like if you're familiar with the Shaman legendary, I believe Swamp Queen Hagatha, it works essentially the same way. You get this 1 mana 1/1 that just casts whatever spell, and you should be able to target it as well. So this is obviously going to be class dependent, but just generally speaking, I mean, a lot of classes have a lot of pretty good spells that you might want to cast off of that you could get off of this thing. You know, you could get like any Mage Secret for 3 mana, any like Hunter Secret for 3 mana, a whole bunch of targeted things. You could get like value generation, you know, something like Arcane Intellect. Priest has the new Arcane Intellect with the swap effect. I forget what it's called at this second, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of really insane things you can do with this. Probably weaker in like Paladin, where you're likely to just get littered. Likely to get littered down by like secrets and stuff. They're 1 mana secrets, but yeah, this does a little bit more than you would expect to be fair from a card, frankly. So we'll have to see what the rotation is, but most classes are going to have really strong things to do with this. So I think this is going to be an extremely, extremely powerful card for almost every class in Arena. Now let's move on to the other 2 neutral cards we have here. The first one here is Smothering Starfish. This is a 3 mana 2/4 beast. Battle Cry, silence all other minions. So it silences both sides of the board. Ironbeak Owl is crying somewhere. So there are going to be times where, you know, you might not want to silence your own board. So that could be a negative, definitely for sure. But you also have the upside that you can, you know, mass silence your opponent's board as well. I believe the reason they're printing this card is because of, you know, there is one particular card which is kind of terrorizing, not really terrorizing Standard, but, you know, this is something that's going to get really, really countered pretty hard by this card. And, you know, this card's pretty good in Arena too, so that'll be something to keep in mind if these 2 sets are still in. We don't know if Fracture and Ultrac Valley is still going to be in, but, you know, that'll be something to keep in mind. But overall, you know, this is an epic. You might not see it super often. It's going to be one of those things that you don't play around because it's an epic, and then you get wrecked by it sometimes. Although we don't know if they're going to fix the epic bug either, but I'm assuming they will. We don't know there's a bug that makes epics way more common than they're supposed to be right now, because I think a lot of people actually still aren't aware of that, but yeah, assuming that'll be fixed. But overall, I mean, this is probably a powerful enough effect, and you're only giving it up 1 stat. I do think it's going to be a pretty decent draftable card, right? You know, maybe if you have like a whole bunch of death rattles, you might not want to take it so highly, but you know, most of the time you can control when you play it, so you'd expect something good out of it. It's one of the cheaper silences that's ever been available, so I think you'll be drafting it a lot if you do see it. Now let's move on to the last card on this list here that has been revealed so far. This is Eni Stormcoil. It's a 5-mana neutral legendary 4/4 battle cry. Choose a friendly mech, summon a copy of it with Rush, Windfury, and Divine Shield. I believe I've already seen jokes about this just being a Paladin card, because it seems like Paladin's getting a whole bunch of mechs and no other classes are getting good mechs as far as I'm aware, but you know, that could change in the future, and we'll see if like they rotate in goblins versus gnomes or something. Again, we don't know what sets are going to be in, but you know, maybe this will be decent. But generally speaking, yeah, you probably would want to pick this a lot more in, you know, particularly Paladin, for example. But overall, I mean, this thing summons a copy with Rush, Windfury, Divine Shield. If you just hit this on like a 2-mana 3/2, for example, you're getting a 4/4 and a 3/2 with Rush, Divine Shield. The Windfury probably doesn't matter that much, but you know, that's already pretty darn good amount of stats. So basically you just need to hit this on anything. It's enough upside, I think, especially if you have big mechs. I mean, that could be game winning as well. If you have just mechs, this will be a decent pick, and the upside will probably be worth the risk of having it. But you know, obviously if you don't have mechs, it's terrible. So that's about how it is basically. So, and with that, that's it for this card review. Thanks all for hanging out, everyone. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and comment on what your favorite part of this review is, which cards you like or whatever, and make sure to check out the giveaways that I mentioned in the intro of this video as well. YouTube one will be coming soon, Twitch one will be probably this weekend, and the Twitter one is live right now, so make sure to check those out. Thanks a lot again for hanging out, everyone. We'll see you guys in the next one.